Hello, and welcome to the Wondermongers,
where we talk about the strange and freakish things in our slice of the world. I'm Christina.
And I'm Quincy. Let's wondermonger. Hello, welcome to the Wondermongers. Long time no see.
I suppose, yeah.
No, it's a long time no see for a watering hole.
Yeah, that's fair. This watering hole is mine today, and I wanted to dive into some Korean history, so...
But before we do that...
yes, fuck, I forgot. What was the question?
Who is your cruise ship best friend? And who is your cruise ship enemy, Christina?
Oh, God. I think my cruise ship best friend... Are we talking, like, in our personal lives, or are we talking about, like, a celebrity, or your cats, or what was going on?
Celebrities.
Celebrities.
Yeah, like, if you got thrown on, like, a celebrity cruise ship for 9 months,
yeah,
who would be your best friend and who would be your enemy? And they don't have to be, like, big 5-star celebrities. They can be, like, or, like, not, like, what is, like, A-list. They don't have to be A-list.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, both of them are cruises. Because they're going on cruises.
Hit me!
My enemy is Tom Cruise.
You brought him up this time.
I did. And that's why. It's because I don't want him involved anymore. And my best friend is gonna be Terry.
Oh, bless.
Terry Crews.
Okay. I think my best friend would probably... I would want it to be like Caitlin Doughty, the author.
Oh, right.
Just because she seems like she's so much fun. And then my enemy would probably have to be like somebody that like I don't have real beef with, but I'm like kind of annoyed by in like the media. Like George Lopez.
George?
Yeah, like...
All right.
Like, I have nothing against the guy, but I hate, like, you know how everybody in our kind of age bracket, like, remembers waking up in the middle of the night to the fucking George Lopez show? Tequila. Like, like, in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night, you woke up and George Lopez was there?
Yeah, the George Lopez show, on TV.
I don't think we all went through that.
Oh my god, I thought everybody had that, but that would grind my fucking gears.
Yeah, it was on late at night, but, like, if you're not...
Like, if you fell asleep with the TV on?
Oh.
You know, and then you'd wake up, and it's just fucking George Lopez and that really weird sitcom show he had.
Yeah. Like, I know what you're talking about. However, I think I normally just... I don't know. I guess infomercials were the thing.
Okay, that's fair. Ooh, I would cruise ship enemy with the guy who took over for Billy Mays.
Oh.
I hate him. What is his name?
I don't know.
Actually hate him, but like I hate...
He's kind of annoying for you.
Yeah, he's so obnoxious.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay.
Okay, well, I'm gonna transition into the watering hole.
Oh, please.
So, quick disclaimer, I am a dumb American with a fat tongue. I am going to do my best to pronounce all the names that are involved, but I'm not going to get it right. I'm going to get a lot of things wrong, and I'm so sorry. Give me a little bit of grace while you're listening if you actually know how these names are pronounced. But if I botch every single name and it physically hurts you, I am so sorry. Trying my best. Anyway, we're going to be, like me and my husband, we're going to be in Korea until November, so I figured it was probably time that I actually learned a little history involving this country that I live in.
Right.
There's a lot of influential people that I could talk about in Korean history, but I specifically decided that I wanted to talk about some of the women who were the first in Korea to do their specific thing.
Yay!
I've got 3 women that I want to talk about, and a 4th if we're lucky on time. So, first one up is a Korean woman named Kwang Kyuk. And she was born in January 11th, 1901. In most Asian cultures, if you're unaware, Kwon is going to be the family name. Kyuk is her actual, like, her individual name.
Like her first name?
Yes, correct. Like her first name. So that's how it works. If she was born, like, 100 years later in the States, she'd probably have, like, a stupid white people name like Jessica, but... More to the point, she'd be called Kyak Kwan instead. So just kind of...
Kyak. Is that what we're going to call her for the sake of the episode?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call her.
Great.
So, Kyak was born in Sangsugu Village in Pyongyang. That's actually now the capital of North Korea. Just to give you an idea of where it was. She was attending Sunghyung Elementary School between 1913 and 1918, and she actually saw something that ended up inspiring her to do the thing that she wanted to do. An aerobatics demonstration took place by an American by the name of Art Smith in 1917 up in Korea. And to put it in the fanciest terms I possibly can, aerobatics is falling with style. That's a Toy Story joke. Thank you for laughing. I appreciate that.
Okay, wait. I have a history clarification question.
Yes, hit me.
Because my suburban school did not do me well. You said 1917.
Yes.
That's like right before World War One?
We can look it up real quick. We have a computer here.
I will Google.
You will Google. That's great. We love when you Google, and I just do nothing.
World War One. Okay. World War One started in 1914 and ended in 1918.
Okay. So it was near the end.
Great.
When she saw this aerobatics demonstration.
So it makes, like, the aerobatics demonstration would make sense within the course of it being World War One.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
I'm on top of it now.
Great. But if you didn't get that Toy Story joke I mentioned, basically aerobatics is just flying, like plane flying with style, like think Thunderbirds, if you're an American.
Or the Blue Angels.
Right.
If that's more your speed.
Right. Whatever your thing is, that's it. 1919, she participated in the March 1st movement, or the Sam Il movement. And Sam Il just means 3-1. And that was actually a major protest movement whose main objective was to declare its independence from Imperial Japan, put a stop to the forced assimilation into Japanese culture. Why March 1st? Well, that's the leader of Korea, Emperor Gojong at the time. He was rumored to have been poisoned by the Japanese imperial family. He ended up being found dead in his palace, and his funeral took place on March 1st. So they decided, we're going to take that day back a little bit. And among the 20 million Koreans that showed up, 3.1 million participated in their main demonstration, which was basically telling Japan to fuck off. March 1st is a Korean holiday celebrated as the Independence Movement Day.
And so this was 1919, you said? So she would have been 18.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, there was a rainfall of independence demonstrations and movements involving Japan and its occupation of Korea. And this was one of the earliest and largest of its time, that the 3-1. The demonstrations they held were suppressed brutally. Historians citing about 7,500 were killed, 16,000 wounded, and 46,000 arrested. And Kiok was actually a statistic involving that last category. She got arrested. She spent 3 weeks in jail because of her involvement in this movement. And after she was released, she came back into the force stronger than ever. She assisted with fundraising events for the Korean Patriotic Women's Association, which was a group that supported Korean liberation and centered around women, essentially. And she ended up getting caught again, sentenced to 6 months of imprisonment. And after her time was served, she actually couldn't reside in Korea any longer. She got exiled over to Shanghai, China, actually. She got on some rickety-ass fishing boat and went to the Provisional Government of Korea in China. Many Koreans actually found themselves in a similar situation, and unfortunately there were a lot of people that were exiled all over there. So Kiok is in China now. She decided the best way that she could actually help the cause was to educate herself. So she enrolled into Hongdao Women's School in Hanzhou. She learned Chinese and English, which was actually supposed to take her 4 years, and she did it in 2. She learned 2 whole stupid languages, and she said, let me do it in 2.
English is the most ridiculous language there is.
I quite agree.
Good for her, dude.
Right?
Pop off, queen.
So after she did that, she expressed how interested she was in flying. And she actually got into the Republic of China Air Force School in Yunnan. And that was because she did hard work, but also she got a recommendation from the provincial government of Republic of Korea, the place that she was exiled to, essentially. They gave her a good recommendation to this school, and the school was no joke for men. It was thought to be impossible for women to get through physically, but she actually did it. We got ourselves a true Elle Woods, my dude. She logged over 7,000 flight hours.
This
7,000.
bitch is really doing the most in the best way.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So she entered the school in 1923, graduated in 25, and she was the only woman in her graduating class.
She did this by 24 years old.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I am falling behind, dude. I am 23 years old, and what do I have to show for myself? This podcast.
You know, Kyoc could never podcast.
Well, I feel like she'd be great. Anyway.
I mean, she might. I don't know.
We've never met.
Correct. Okay, so she was stationed in Beijing after she was done with all of her flight school and everything. She relocated to Nanjing in 27, and by 1940, our girl was a lieutenant colonel.
Holy shit.
Yeah, in the Chinese, what did I say, Air Force?
Yep.
Yeah, Air Force.
Please tell me she did some badass shit in World War II, because we're getting right into 1940.
You know, I wish I could.
Oh, damn.
Unfortunately, she never actually got to fly and fight against the Japanese in the air like she wanted. She did get to fight back within that government that she kind of ran into in China. Her husband was a huge proponent in that organization.
Okay.
So she helped work with him to fight back against them in their own way. But she never got to do it in the air, which sucks.
Yeah,
but
suck.
She did a lot of cool shit over in China, though.
Good for her.
Right? So World War II ended. Korea restored its independence. Kyoc returned to her homeland. And she was actually instrumental in founding the Republic of Korea Air Force. It didn't exist before she came back home.
Good for her. She's the reason. Without her, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Probably not,
because Korean Air Force, because we're off of a Korean Air Force base.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, dude.
Right? Korean history. Cool.
That's awesome.
Kyoc is awesome. So, while the Korean War was going on, she served as a member of South Korea's Ministry of National Defense. And after the war, she retired to have more of a private life, and she served as the vice president of Korea-China Cultural Association from 66 until 75. And then she received the Presidential Commendation in 68 in order of merit for her National Foundation in 77. And she unfortunately died, but, that's how I feel okay with talking about, someone's life when they're no longer with us and they do cool shit. But she did die in 88 and was buried in the National Cemetery in Dongjakgu in Seoul. Yeah, that one. So, there you go. That's
this
Kyoc.
woman. Hell yes.
All right?
Okay, hit me with another one. All
right. Moving on to Jangum. And I'm going to say that wrong every single time, and I'm so sorry.
What are we calling her? Jang for this one?
Nope, just Jangum.
Jangum?
That's the only thing she's known for.
Great, Jangum.
She didn't have a family name. I remember now. She didn't have a family name to associate with herself.
Okay.
But she was born in 1474.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going way back. This was during the Joseon Dynasty, which was the longest dynasty in Korean history, if you weren't aware. She was the first female royal physician in Korean history. Unfortunately, the information that we have for her is very slim. So this is literally everything I could find out about her. There is no official record of her being the attending physician to the king. However, she was mentioned 10 times in the annals of the Joseon Dynasty, which is basically just a record-keeping system.
Okay.
These records they were kept between 1392 until 1865, and they're comprised of 1,800 plus volumes.
Wow.
So it's thought to be the longest continual documentation of a single dynasty in the world. So it's pretty important.
Yeah.
She's mentioned 10 times.
Holy.
So in theory, she had to have existed.
Yeah.
But there's no actual other documentation of her existing. But this is what we got so far. First time she's mentioned in these documents, it's actually a super sad event. The queen, in 1515, she had died while giving birth to the future king, and Jangum was actually in the group of the, and I'm going to say this wrong, Uinyo, that had assisted her with the birth. And these Uinyo were female physicians that specialized in caring for women specifically. And they were essential at the time because in Joseon, they had a Confucian society. And because of their belief system, physical contact between men and women was actually banned. So most of the male physicians that could do, like most of what they could do was just tie a piece of string to like the royal female patient's wrists to indirectly take their pulses, and that was kind of it. Okay. Like they couldn't do much else except for advise them to do things because they couldn't physically touch them. Okay. So that's why these Uinyos were so instrumental and important, because they could actually help them with different things, you know, take their pulse correctly and make sure that they had whatever care and treatment was necessary for anyone that was seriously ill or could possibly have some preventable disease of some sort. So that's what they were about.
Is the Uinyo, is there somewhere between like a nurse and a midwife?
Kind of, yeah. Like that's kind of the realm that they're at. Think of them like a nurse. Okay. Essentially, whatever the actual straight up physician says to do, they implement it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they specialized in female care specifically.
Great.
Now, before the Inyo were created, female patients would actually refuse to receive treatment from male doctors because it was, like at the time, women were supposed to not be a bother. So going to a physician saying, I have a problem, I need you to help me fix this, that was a little too much for their society. Okay. And it was kind of looked down upon. So a lot of women that were within the royal family, a lot of them died because they ended up dying from these preventable causes. Oh no, we gotta get meds in our body.
I'm so sorry. Let's not get copyright struck for the freaking X-Files theme song.
So anyway, these female physicians specialized in treating women, but not only women. They also treated men as well. It just wasn't very common.
Okay.
So one of the uncommon ones was, of course, our Jangum. She was actually the first to treat a king. Okay. And the second time that she's mentioned was like the day after the death of his wife. The king says that Jangum deserves a big credit for her role in the safe birth of his child. And he says, I have never awarded her actions until now because of other affairs. Now you're telling me to punish her because the queen is dead. But I won't do that, as well as I won't reward her. That's enough. And the you that he's trying to point at, saying, now you're telling me these things, it's the court officers. They wanted to punish all the women that were involved in that whole incident because the queen died.
Okay.
Now, it kind of sucks, but that was just how it was at the time.
Right.
Now, the rest of the entries that are about her is just how well she did to aid the family or the king specifically during their times of medical need, and how she was rewarded, which was normally like bags of rice or beans or cloth or anything of that nature. So that's basically what was written about her in these records.
Great.
The king was super pleased with Jangum's medical knowledge and trusted her with taking care of the royal family. So she actually was supposedly, or she became the third highest ranking officer in the court. And she was also probably granted the use of Dae. That is a title. Think of it like doctor or something, but it's not actually doctor. It actually just means great or big or tall. It just depends on what your possible definition of that is. So that would be, it would be Dae Jangung.
Okay.
So that's how they would refer to her. And that's actually the title of the Korean drama series that you can find. It's also called Jewel in the Palace. I've never seen it, so I don't really know if it's good or not. But I guess it got really popular for a while. So there was that. So, I mean, there were other things that happened. Like, she was basically the only one to give treatment to the king and his family. After a certain point, like, he trusted her implicitly, like, just strictly, she's the main bitch, and she's the only one that can touch us, essentially.
Good for her.
And there was actually a guy that was also a physician, and he stepped in, and at some point he said, "This is an abomination. This can't happen. Like, women can't do this. Kick her out. Let me do it." And the king said, "Fuck off."
The king was like, "Stay in your lane, buddy boy."
Right. Now, the last time she's mentioned in these reports is right before the king died. In the fall of 1544, the king's health was declining, and he got sick, essentially. And she is quoted updating the condition of the king. And 4 days later, he is shown to recover from all the medical things that she had done. And then that's the last time that she's mentioned, because the king ended up dying 17 days later at 56, which was actually typical of males at the time, so it's not like anything funky went down or anything. So there was that, and she was mentioned in certain medical books. I mean, she died in like 70, or at 75 or 76. We're not really sure. Some people still don't believe she existed. There's a lot of debate even today on whether she existed or not, and any of the information that I actually gave you, if it was correct or not. So it's possible that she existed. It's also possible she didn't exist at all, and it's just a story.
I'm going with she existed. I want to believe her. She sounds awesome.
Same, dude. All right, next we got Lee Tae-young. Now, she was the first Korean female lawyer. Before she became a lawyer...
The first Elwoods.
Yes, the first actual Elwoods. Her husband was arrested for anti-Japanese activities during the colonial era, before she actually became a lawyer herself. She later became the first woman to join Seoul National University in 1946. She earned her law degree, and under the dictatorship of Park Chung-hee, who, as a side note, was kind of a piece of fucking work. Like, kind of the worst.
Great.
But anyway, thanks to him, essentially, our lawyer didn't really stay quiet on the issue of civil liberties and was disbarred.
Oh.
Which sucks. But that didn't stop her. It was just like a little bump. She actually transformed her cabinet into a legal aid center. She later became one of the first female judges in South Korea, which is kind of nuts.
That's insane.
Right? Women's issues were at the center of her career. She published a lot of books about and for women, and it was thought that she was the first female judge in Korean history. While she was a judge eventually, she was not the first.
Oh.
One of the first, just not the absolute first.
Okay.
Hwan Yoon-suk and our girl, Tae-young, they both applied for judgeship the same year. Yoon-suk was accepted. Tae-young was not at the time due to all of her political affiliations and everything.
And
they didn't want her.
Remind me, what year is this?
She went to the university in 46, so this was probably just a few years later, like late 40s, early 50s. Okay. Yeah, somewhere around there. Now, her husband was imprisoned for sedition, and she had to work as a school teacher and a radio singer. She took in sewing, washing, all of that kind of stuff just to maintain her family because her husband was behind bars. Now, after World War II, and it was all said and done and over, her husband encouraged her to follow her dreams and getting the education she always wanted to become a lawyer proper. Now, she earned her law degree in 3 years.
Holy shit.
3 years. That's all it took.
Fast.
After the Korean War, she opened a law practice which serviced poor women in the area. In 1952, she was the first woman to pass the National Judicial Examination, which at the time was what qualified for someone to be an official lawyer. So it took, she had to jump through this hoop, and this hoop in order to actually make it to actually be called an official lawyer. It took her a while because there were so many hurdles. She and her husband participated in the 76 Myeongdong Declaration, which called for the return of civil liberties to South Korean citizens. President Park Chung-hee hated that because it was literally against their political views. Tae-young was arrested and received a 3-year suspension, a loss of civil liberties, and an automatic disbarment for 10 years.
Holy.
She was a lawyer, but she was a lawyer for like a barely any amount of time because she just kept getting beaten down. But she did a lot of good because her practice ended up becoming the Korea Legal Aid Center for Family Relations, and that served more than 10,000 clients each year.
Wow.
So she ended up writing 15 books on issues concerning women, and she translated Eleanor Roosevelt's book On My Own to Korean. For fun, I guess.
Good for her.
Yeah. I got one honorary mention.
Hit me.
Susan Ann Cuddy, or
Oh, yes, we love Susan Ann Cuddy.
She was born in the States, but
She was.
her parents were born in Korea. It was when Japan was being the worst.
But she was... Okay. She was the first female gunnery for the Navy, right?
She really was.
Yeah, okay. I knew who this was. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
Hit me.
So she was the first Asian American woman to join the U.S. Navy, like you said, but she was also the first female gunnery officer in the Navy. She grew up with parents who were Korean independence activists. They were actually the first Korean married couple to immigrate to the U.S.,
Holy
which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
She lost her father to their activism, unfortunately. When he was imprisoned, he was also tortured by the Japanese guards and everything. And he lost the fight, essentially, to stay alive in that particular point. So once he died, that kind of messed with her a little bit, but she kept going. And after Pearl Harbor, she joined the fight to go against Japan by enlisting into the Navy, and on her second attempt, she actually was able to get in. Good. First attempt, of course, there's going to be hurdles.
They Steve Rogers her.
Kinda, yeah. Now, this was an incredibly sexist, anti-Asian country and military at the time, and somehow she pushed through all that bullshit and essentially said, "Get the fuck out of my way." She honored her father's legacy by fighting the Japanese, who she viewed as, literally, it's a quote, predators. She got so good at her job that she became an instructor to flight simulators into the service, and she eventually made lieutenant and moved forward, accomplishing what so many other people would call incredible things, making sure that women knew that they could go into the Navy, they could go into the military forces, encouraging them to go forward. And, just essentially, if you're Asian at that time, it's really hard to get a job anywhere.
She married an immigrant, too, Frank Cuddy.
She did. Frank is Irish-American.
Okay, yes.
Or was. And that was not seen as an okay thing at the time. They were actually only married, they were only able to get married in one place, actually. No other place would take them. And oddly enough, it was a Navy chapel in Washington, D.C., of all places. But there were a lot of laws that were trying to segregate race at the time. And interracial marriage was not okay.
Right.
And they just kind of said, fuck it, and went for it. And, personally and professionally, badass.
She's so cool.
She really is.
Susan Cuddy's really fucking cool. She's so cool. Literally, all of these women were great. We had a pilot. We had a doctor or
a physician.
A physician.
Yeah.
We had a lawyer, judge, and now we have a gunny officer. I'm like, oh, they're so cool.
Right?
Ah!
So that's it. That's all I got. That's my conclusion. And I hope you learned something here at the Watering Hole. As always, we want to encourage you to go down your own rabbit hole. Maybe I got something wrong.
Yeah.
It's very, very possible. But make sure that if you do go down these rabbit holes, let us know all about it, what you found out, what you're interested in. If you found some more Korean women in history that are the first of their kind and I just missed them.
Yeah.
We'd like to know all about it anyway.
Yeah, you can find us at the Wondermongers. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're actually on TikTok, believe it or not. Yeah, come hit us up. I guess the question, can I leave everybody with a question?
100%.
Okay, we're going to even narrow it down on women. Who's a woman in history that you look up to? It doesn't have to be a Korean woman. It could be anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, I have an answer, like right off the top of my head, you know? And so I want to know, like, who's a woman in history that you look up to that you think is just the shit? It could be for activism. It could be because they're the first of their kind. It doesn't matter. Just, who do you look up to? Pick a woman. It's like that.
Pick a woman.
It's like that TikTok trend where people go up to their spouses and go, name a woman. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay.
That seems very strange. They just say name a woman.
Name a woman. And they, like, you win if you name, like, a wife, a family member, you know, whatever.
Oh.
But sometimes they get caught off guard, and, like, this girl went up to, I think it was her husband, and she went, name a woman. And he went, Susan B. Anthony. You know, so it's just, like,
Okay.
it's some sort of TikTok trend to be like, who's, like, what woman is your husband thinking about right now, or whatever. But
gotcha.
it just, name a woman.
All right. Well,
thank you for listening. Oh, that was really interesting. Thank you for bringing all that information in.
yeah, I know it was a lot, and I'm sorry about all that, but I tried to make it as concise as possible.
I think I think the watering holes are really interesting because we each come up with very different topics.
Yeah.
And so we're not a true crime podcast. We're not a history podcast. We're not a conspiracy theory podcast.
Right.
We're not a philosophy podcast. But, like, we're going to bring it all to you and maybe get you thinking about something you weren't going to think about before. Yeah. Anyway, it was great talking to you. And we will see you next week. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.